Hi, this is Shannon. I want to share with you today 3 snacks that we love to eat at our house. These are things we make at home from scratch with really simple ingredients. So I want to share with you what they are, how we make them, and where I source the ingredients from. If you are new to my channel, I am a homeschooling mom of 3 little ones, 5, 3, and 1, and we are very passionate about finding ways to live a healthy lifestyle, especially the food we eat. The first snack I want to share with you are these gummy bears. I've made 2 different kinds recently. These are the kind I made with this cherry juice, but I have also made them with apple juice, and they're both delicious. These are the 2 juices I've tried so far, but you could make them with lots of different kinds. So I've experimented with different amounts of gelatin, different amounts of honey, different amounts of juice to try to get the right balance of chewiness and sweetness, the right consistency to actually stay, in this shape when you pop them out of the mold. So I want to share that recipe with you. So I have the recipe for these on my blog, but I'll share a little bit about the ingredients I use and kind of how I make them. The main thing in these is gelatin. I get this gelatin from Azure Standard. I've talked about how I love Azure Standard before. But this is just plain unflavored gelatin, grass-fed. And I also got these half-gallon glass jars from Azure Standard, and I love it because I can just put ingredients like gelatin in them and then just refill them as I need instead of using lots of little packages. It's just gelatin, juice, and then honey. So I also get this honey from Azure Standard, and I get the juice from Azure Standard. So everything's from Azure Standard for these. And I love it because I can get a big thing of this honey. Sometimes I try to get local honey because obviously that's great, but when I can't get that, I like to get this from Azure because I can get a big glass jar of it and it lasts us a while. And they have several different kinds of honey too. Also, I love their juice options because these are all 100% organic juice. So basically all you do, again, you can look at my recipe, I'll link below for more specifics, but basically you put a cup of juice in a saucepan, sprinkle 1/4 a cup of gelatin over the juice and just let it sit for about 5 minutes. That's called blooming the gelatin, and it just soaks in the liquid. And that prevents a lot of clumping later. So you just let it sit. The gelatin will soak in with the juice naturally. You don't even have to really stir it. And then once it's soaked in, I pour a couple tablespoons of honey, and then I just turn on the heat to medium-low heat and let it turn into liquid. I mix it a little bit, and it just naturally turns into a very smooth liquid. Once it's a liquid, then I pour it into these cute bear molds that I got. I'll link below where I got them. If you're curious, you could also just pour them into a glass baking dish, and then once they set, you could just cut them into squares if you don't want to use a fancy mold, but they're fun to make little bears. We like that. So then I just let them sit out on the counter for about 20 minutes or so. I don't really time it, just a little bit so they don't slosh around when I put them in the fridge. Then I let them set in the fridge for a couple hours, and then I pop them out, and they turn into these really cute little gummies. So I used to buy gummy snacks from the store often, and I try to buy the better ones, but there's not really any better ones. They're just full of sugar and other stuff that they don't need to have in them. So, and these are super easy to make and super quick. There's no cooking. I mean, I guess you're heating up your saucepan, but that's it. They're really quick, really easy, and my kids like them. Then I know what's in them. And gelatin is really good, super good source of collagen. So I love that my kids are getting that as they eat these gummies too. So check out my blog post if you want to try to make those. Another snack we really enjoy making at home are these cheddar crackers. These are so good, and I only need a few ingredients to make them. And as you can see, my kids love making them in different shapes. So recently, we've made a bunch of different leaf shapes because we've been studying leaf shapes in our homeschool. So I got these cookie cutters, like oval, lobed, cleft. I also use these little fish cutters and make little goldfish. So super fun. You can see there's a gingerbread man and a snowman too. So my kids have a lot of fun making different shapes with them. And to make them, you literally only need flour, butter, which I love getting this butter from Azure Standard. It's organic, unsalted cultured butter, raw milk cheese. You just need butter, cheese, and flour, and then salt and some spices. But this raw milk cheese is awesome. It's raw medium cheddar. If you've tried raw milk cheese, it's just so good. Cheese made from raw milk, which is what this is, just has a lot more probiotics. And it's hard to go back to eat normal cheese after you taste this because it's just so good. So I like giving my kids this, and then the flour that we use, I like to use freshly milled flour. You don't have to, you can just use normal flour totally if you don't have a flour mill. If you do, it's awesome. So I use soft white wheat berries, and basically you just grind them in a grain mill. So I use a mock mill, and I'll link below which one I use. I love it. We've used it for pancakes, for cream of wheat, for bread. I make sourdough bread and bread with just yeast for my kids too. So we use it all the time. And you can get a huge bag of these wheat berries. It's such a cost saver because the bag lasts forever. And I get these huge bags of wheat berries from Azure Standard, like I've talked about before in some of my other videos. But for crackers, I like to use soft white wheat. I also have hard white and einkorn and spelt wheat berries as well. Basically, all you do is weigh out 120 grams of soft white wheat berries, and you can, do a little bit less, like 100 grams, and then add in some spelt or einkorn for some ancient grains for that nutrition too. Then after you grind the flour, I shred the cheese. So you use 8 ounces. This is an 8-ounce block of cheese. Shred it, and then you put the shredded cheese and butter. So I use 4 tablespoons of butter, and you can just kind of cut up into little slices, put it in a food processor or a high-speed blender, blend it up, and it turns into little breadcrumb looking things. Then after you mix it up, you can add the spices. So I add a little bit of salt, which I like to get this real salt, Redmond real salt. And I also add a teeny bit, like 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder. I grind all that up in my food processor, and then I add the flour. So again, I weigh out 120 grams of wheat berries, grind it in my grain mill, and then I add the flour. And then I keep processing it in my food processor. And what happens is it just starts forming like a clump. It's pretty obvious when that happens in the food processor. And then it's just a clump of dough. So you take it out of the food processor. It's pretty soft. And I put it in the fridge for an hour or so just to let it get a little bit harder. Then I roll it out on parchment paper as thin as I can get it. And then I use my cookie cutters to cut out the different shapes and put it in the oven and bake them. So it's really simple. I have a recipe for this if you're curious. Again, you can totally just use normal flour if you don't have the wheat berries. So good, and you will not want to buy store-bought crackers again. They're just so much better for you. I let my kids eat as many of these as what they want because it's literally cheese and really high quality butter and high quality flour. So it's really good for them. I want to explain too some of the benefits of freshly milled flour. So when you have the whole wheat berry like this, it has the 3 parts of the wheat berry in it, which is the bran, germ, and endosperm. When you grind it in your own grain mill using a stone grinding method, it keeps all the nutrients intact. But when you buy flour at the store, it's been stripped of the bran and the germ. And so basically it's just a lot of empty calories and carbohydrates, and it doesn't have those vitamins and minerals that this has. With bread being such a staple food in our diet, it was really important to our family to get our own grain mill so we could make bread from freshly milled flour and just have those nutrients and fiber and minerals in the bread like it was supposed to be, like God made it. The third snack that we really like to make at our house are these either peanut butter balls or sunflower balls. So these are made with sunflower butter, and we love those. And the way I make sunflower butter is I actually get raw sunflower seeds. So they're just sunflower seeds. I like to get them from Thrive Market. So they're just organic sunflower seeds, and the only ingredient is literally sunflower seeds. So I love that. So I just soak them for like 12 hours or overnight. And the way I do that is I fill a mason jar with the sunflower seeds and then just cover them with filtered water. And I put a little kefir in there. So you can buy kefir. I like to make my own kefir at home. So this is currently raw milk with kefir grains fermenting. So it's becoming kefir. I started it this morning, and usually I let it go all day and all night. And the next morning I strain the grains out, and I'm left with this lovely kefir, which if you've never had kefir, it's like between milk and yogurt. It's not as solidified as yogurt. It's a little bit more liquidy, but it's more sour, and I just love it. I love making smoothies with it. But putting a little kefir, or you could put a little yogurt, or you could put whey if you have whey in with the seeds to soak them, just helps break down the phytic acid in the seeds. So you can do this with peanuts, almonds, whatever kind of butter you want to make, and it makes it so much more digestible and nutritious. So that is how I make the butter that I use for these, but you can also just buy any kind of butter like peanut butter, almond butter, sunflower seed butter too. I actually just picked up an Azure Standard order and got a whole lot of this peanut butter. So this is creamy peanut butter, no salt, organic. I love it because the only ingredient is dry roasted blanched organic peanuts. That's it. This comes in a box of 12 peanut butters, and we go through them. So it's an awesome way to save money on buying peanut butter. So you can make the balls with peanut butter or sunflower butter, but all they take are oats. I like to use these sprouted quick oats. My kids like the quick oats better than the whole oats. You could also just use like rolled oats, but put them in a food processor and grind them up a little bit. I like to get the sprouted ones because I'm hopeful that they're a little bit more digestible. You could also soak your own oats. That just feels like a little much for me. I like using these. And I put flaxseed in them and chia seeds. And again, I got these jars from Azure Standard. They're great to just put ingredients like these in. So I got these chia seeds and the flax seeds in big bags from Azure Standard. Just helps me save money. I also use coconut oil in them. You can use any kind of oil. I got this big thing of coconut oil from Azure Standard too. So I put that in them. And let's see, did put some chocolate chips. I get these chocolate chips from Azure Standard and just dump them in this glass jar, and then I refill it as I need. I think that's about it. I use vanilla in them too. Got this from Azure Standard too. Basically, I got pretty much everything from Azure Standard, except I did get these from Thrive Market. I like Thrive Market a lot too. They have some stuff that Azure Standard doesn't. And if I am gonna buy snacks for my kids, they do have granola bars that just have a few ingredients in them and no added sugar. So sometimes I get granola bars from Thrive Market too. They also have honey in them that I got from Azure Standard too, and they are delicious. Great snack, great little energy ball, filling. My kids love these, especially in the afternoon, sometimes if they're hungry before dinner. And I like that you can just like put whatever you want in them basically. You can totally change them up. You can put some nuts or seeds in them as well. You could put shredded coconut in them. We don't do that because my husband doesn't love coconut, but you could do that. So lots of options. I wanted to show you too a few other things I got from my most recent Azure haul. I've shown some of these before, but these are staples for us. We love this cultured butter. So I got a bunch of these unsalted butter. I can't find these anywhere else, so love that I can get them from Azure Standard. I got a bunch of these raw cheddar cheese, raw milk cheddar cheese. I get these for my kids. We also get this raw milk goat cheese that we love. So I get a bunch of blocks of this. I personally like it. Some of my kids like it. Some of my kids like the raw cheddar better. but we always get this. It's a much better deal to get it from Azure Standard than from like natural grocers. I also get baking powder and baking soda from them. I get these rolled oats from them that sometimes we use for oatmeal. I get this big thing of einkorn flour. So I do grind my own flour, but I like having some all-purpose flour on hand. I use this for my sourdough starter mostly, but we've also made biscuits with this, so it's just nice to have some all-purpose flour around. I also got this big packet of jelly. So I like this jelly because it doesn't have any added sugar. It's just organic apple juice, organic strawberries, ascorbic acid, citric acid. And I believe that's it this time. So I hope you enjoyed seeing those 3 snacks that we like to make. And again, I'll link below where you can find those recipes. If you're curious, if you try to make one of them, please let me know how it goes and if you enjoy it. I am trying my best to just make more food from scratch from home as much as I can. I feel like it's really important and just valuable to feed our kids healthier options than buying a bunch of processed stuff. So that is what I'm trying to do. If you are enjoying my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I am posting at least 1 video per week related to homeschooling and healthy living. Check out my Instagram too. I like to post about what we do throughout the week homeschool-wise and new recipes we're making, things like that. And also check out my blog where you can find these recipes and other posts as well related to homeschooling. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.